welcome to the second segment on transforms. This video is going to cover how you can nest various functions within a single transform block. Again, as a recap from the video before, you can do transforms in series, and the benefit of doing it that way is you will be able to troubleshoot much easier. The downside is you're going to have potentially 4 or 5 different transforms in a row, and you might want to clean up what that view looks like on your screen, and that's where you may want to nest them. Now, when doing a nest or nesting a transform, you really need to understand the order of operations. And to do that, sometimes it's best to visualize what that might look like. So if I switch here, you can see in this scenario, I have an example of a valid transform. So in this case, the outer transform is going to be a division, and the inner transform is going to be an addition. So I'm going to take that ID from the body that we return from that random API call, going to add a specified number, and then I'm going to divide that by a secondary value or divisor, right? So this is an example of a valid transform, and we'll switch back over to flows and I'll show you how you can build that out. So I have my first API call. It's going to pull back a random joke that's going to have a number identifier. Then I'll go over to connectors, I will go over to conditions, and I'll pull in the transform data. Now, once I've pulled this in, I like to give mine a description of what is actually occurring. So you could actually just do something like this, where you put in here what the transform is doing, right? You could also just give it a name, whatever you would want. This does help you visualize it a little bit, right? So I can see that the outermost operation is the division, which means the first thing I'm going to do is select division. The numerator is actually going to be another formula or transform. The denominator is just going to be 2. Now, you'll notice here, I don't have a way of hitting this drop down at all. However, if I hit this slider bar, this drop down now becomes accessible. So tip and trick, this slider bar allows you to nest the function. So next to numerator, I hit the slider and then I chose add. You'll notice there is a little box around here that can really help me identify what is going on within this transform. So the next thing I'll do is I'll select that ID from the body, and then I will put that number 100 here. And now if we take a look, we can see that I'm doing an addition. I'm adding the ID from the body to the number 100. If I wanted to, I guess I could add another number to be added here. Like, let's say I had 3 different API responses with different numbers and I wanted to add them up. That may be a good example of where you would do that. This is an example of a valid transform. Now, to see what the transform looks like in one place, you can hover over the transform and you can see that you have a division, and in the inside you have an addition, right? So 100 plus the ID divided by 2 is what we're going to be doing with this transform. So we can go ahead and save this, and if we go to run this flow, we expect to return or receive a number from this call and this transform to work. If I come in and I take a look here, you'll see that the random joke did return a response, and the number is 395. So we should expect 495 divided by 2. If we come in down here, we see that 495 divided by 2 is 247.50. As I mentioned, it's very difficult, or it is a little bit more difficult to troubleshoot because it doesn't show you each of those individual transforms. It just shows you kind of the outer wrapper. But the benefit, again, is we don't have multiple transforms in series. So from a look and feel, it's much nicer. Now, how, if I wanted to, or what would be an example of an invalid transform? When you try to do nested transforms, the types of transforms that are available depend on the outer selection. So an example of an invalid transform would be something like this, where the outer transform is trying to make an output that is a string, but the inner transform is a mathematical formula. So in this case, this will not work. You cannot do this. This is something you would need to do in a more series fashion. So to demonstrate what that looks like, if I hit transform here, string output addition, right? So on the outside, we're going to go ahead and select string. Again, I can't do this drop down. It won't let me do anything here. However, if I hit value, I see what is available to me from a formula point of view. The first thing you should notice is that add is no longer available, right? So I don't have the ability to select add here. So in this case, this is kind of an example of an invalid transform where I'm not able to do that because the exterior function the exterior function is string, so only specific functions will show up when I select that. So just be aware, sometimes you will have to do these in a series type of action. However, if it is available and you can do it, it does help to just do a quick visualization, and that will help you kind of build out that nested transform.